Our next guest, who's joining us on the Mercedes-Benz Vans hotline or phone line, is a guy I spent 4 hours with last night. Former NFL quarterback, analyst for Pro Football Focus, as well as a contributor to SiriusXM NFL Radio. NFL quarterback veteran, Mr. Bruce Gradkowski. Bruce, what's up, buddy? Good to hear from you again.
Hey, brother. Good. Thanks for having me. And I was going to say those 4 hours, you weren't even whining and dining me with a good meal. We were just strictly talking ball, but it definitely was fun. I ran into your guy, Rich Eisen, the other day on the elevator as well. He was looking good, and I think it's always a great thing he does every year, running a 40. And I told him I'm looking forward to that. And I don't know why I get so much pleasure and satisfaction off of like someone's discomfort and watching him run a 40. I just really enjoy that. So I'm looking forward to it again this year.
Joining us on the phone, Bruce Gradkowski, former NFL quarterback and now analyst. So I've been telling the guys, right? I mean, there's been a lot of talk this morning around Malik Willis and the hype train. And you and I felt like saw it a little bit similarly yesterday. We saw some quarterbacks struggle a little bit, but kind of talk to us about what you saw. You were there in Indianapolis. You watched Malik Willis. You saw some of maybe the lack of fluidity in some of his throws. He uncorked one, of course, 65 yards down the field. I get that. But talk to us a little bit about what you saw last night from the young quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, number one, when I saw him, in person the other day, I went up, stood next to him because I wanted to eye him up and just see physically how he looked. And he's a good, strong-looking dude, good, strong legs. He's probably, about 6'1" or so, around my height. I might have had him just by a hair. But and then you get to the throwing, and I was so anxious to watch this part because to see someone in person, it's a lot different than with pads and in the game and all that. And to your point, that's a great point. It's just fluid. It didn't look fluid to me. It looked like a struggle at times. And the inaccuracy, he was off. He was inaccurate last night. I wanted to see more accuracy from him. But once again, you and I, we pointed out last night that this is the first time them ever throwing to some of these receivers, and you're standing in line, you're waiting for the next throw. It's not easy, but, sometimes you can overthink things, try to be perfect. And I think I saw a little bit of that from him last night. Not that I'm overly concerned or I want to look too far deep into that, but yeah, it just wasn't the night. Maybe I just would have expected a little bit more from him, and I wanted to see more because I like him. I like his film. I like his athleticism. I like he's strong and can make plays outside the pocket, but I wanted to see better accuracy, more so kind of like of what we saw from Kenny Pickett last night.
Yeah, that was my next question. Kenny Pickett was the butt of all jokes yesterday, right? Smallest hands in the combine this year at 8.5 inches, right? NFL Network standing right there next to him. He's not oblivious to what's going on, right? The camera's not pointed at him or his face. It's pointed at his incredibly tiny hands is the way people are putting it. And then he goes out and puts on a show, right? Was probably the most accurate. He was forceful. He had a good foundation beneath him. He was accurate in all phases. He let the ball fly down the football field. I thought he did an exceptional job under the scrutiny and pressure that he had to deal with yesterday because of those hand measurements.
Yeah, you're spot on. I mean, you have a camera down by your waist, like filming your hand. And, we had an opportunity to talk to him on NFL radio this week, and I just loved his poise, his demeanor. Even last night, you could tell he's a guy that doesn't get rattled by much. He's got a really kind of smooth personality about him. And he's smooth on the football field as well. I think he's a football player. And a lot of times we can kind of nitpick things too much, but we can't forget about the game tape. And I asked him the other day, too, how did it feel to be a part of a rule change, with the fake slide?
Right.
But when I watched that play, I knew it came natural to him. And those are the type of plays I try to find from a quarterback to see how instinctive they are. How can they react and just naturally make a play? And that's what he did in that moment. He felt like he was going to slide, but at the moment he was like, wait, why? I could keep going. And he kept his feet and ended up scoring. So I like that part about him. I think he's a football player. I thought he had a great night last night. I was happy for him because of all the noise surrounding how big his hands measured. So for him, I'm happy for him that he had a good night. I still do have some concerns. I mean, college football players, they don't play games in December and January. Yes, they have a bowl game and whatnot. Usually it's indoors or it's in better weather. But December and January, that's when you have to play your best football in the NFL. So I do have some concerns about maybe his arm strength and his accuracy when you're playing in tough environments weather-wise. But I do really like how he's a football player, and I was glad he had a good performance last night.
Yeah, I was too. It was fun to see him overcome something he can't control, right? He can't control the size of his hands, right? He can go, what he can control is what he did last night. Talk to us about some guys that piqued your interest that you maybe didn't necessarily see coming into it, but performed extremely well, and I think probably made themselves some money last night.
Yeah, I mean, I think Desmond Ridder, just the way he ran, like a 4.49, I mean, he's moving, and that's going to kind of pique your attention if you're a scout, just knowing, oh, he's got some speed to him as well, because he's had a great college career. You know, what he did at Cincinnati, where he brought that football team, he has a lot of reps under his belt. So that's something to keep an eye on. I think he has to be better, as I watch his tape, is being more consistent, being more accurate. That's what I'd like to see from him. But I think that 40 is going to kind of pique some teams' attention. You know, and then guys down the list a little bit, you know, Dustin Crum, you know, a guy from Kent State, had a phenomenal career there. You know, he's a smart guy. He's going to execute the offense. I thought last night he was just one of those guys that stepped in, and when it was his turn to throw, he was accurate, he completed the ball, and he had good timing and rhythm, and he got back to the back of the line. Like, he's a guy, didn't say much, did his job, and that was it. And it was spot on. It was like the rhythm and timing you want to see from a quarterback. It was a go ball over the shoulder that was perfect. Twice, right in a row, he did it, which I thought was pretty cool. You know, Brock Purdy. I thought Brock Purdy. I was a fan of his at Iowa State because he's tough. He plays the game fun. It's fun to watch, but he'd make some like boneheaded decisions, and I thought that hurt him later on, you know, in his career at Iowa State, and it hurt that football team. But I thought last night he actually did put a good performance on. I mean, he's not the biggest guy, but he had good timing and rhythm. He was accurate with the football. He's a guy in later rounds. Hey, he's a football player. If your team needs to put a backup in, he could probably get the job done, and he has to be smarter making decisions. But other than that, I thought he did pretty well. You know, Sam Howell, you know, we watched him. I thought, you know, one side to the other, he threw better. I think it was going to his left, and then when he went to his right, he was just off. But he's a guy that, you know, had a great college career, shows he has a good arm, shows he's athletic. But I wanted to see more out of Sam Howell last night because at PFF, he's our number one quarterback. And I'm not sure if, you know, I'm on board with that, but I thought last night I wanted to see more from him.
We're speaking with Bruce Gradkowski, Pro Football Focus analyst, as well as SiriusXM Radio, Channel 88 as well. You listen to me. I really like Carson Strong. I liked what he was in college, but now he's had two opportunities: the Senior Bowl and now the Combine. At least the throwing aspect of it, and he's looked a little shaken. Right? He hasn't looked the part, and I've watched him on tape and in big games and games against better quality opponents like Kansas State, and he has looked like the real deal. So. What's your biggest takeaway from him? Because he's easily the most physically talented player at the quarterback position in this year's NFL draft.
Oh, for sure. And you talk about the amount of reps and throws that he has in his college career has been impressive. You know, you're talking about a guy, you know, 5 big-time throws and 0 turnover where he plays for us at PFF versus Colorado State in his final career game. I mean, you know, that's him. That's what he's capable of doing. But, you know, and that's what I loved about you last night. Like you were talking highly of Carson Strong coming in, and then you know, at one point you were like, you know what, this is the second time in a row on a big stage with the Senior Bowl and now the Combine that he has not stepped up and taken advantage of that. And that's what I saw last night. Like for me, you know, you and I were talking about it. It's sometimes as a quarterback, you try to overthink things. You try to be perfect, and you aim your throws. You try to guide your throws instead of just taking your drop and letting that sucker loose. You got to let it rip and not overthink it. And last night, Carson Strong looked like he was trying to be perfect and just pinpoint accurate, but sometimes when you overthink that, he threw a couple slants that were right at the knees. He threw an in route right at the knees. It stinks for him, but he'll get another opportunity this pro day. And for a guy that's just a pocket-type passer and with the talk around his knee and how healthy can he be, I think last night wasn't his best performance.
Yeah, it was disappointing, especially for somebody who thinks he has a heck of a career ahead of him at the NFL level. All right, let's bounce around the league a little bit. The quarterback position, as always, as we head into free agency, as we head into the new league year, is the conversation piece. The biggest ones out there, Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers once again, what that's going to look like. Aaron hasn't made a decision. Russell's a Seattle Seahawk. There's nothing changing there unless something's forced where he doesn't show up and play. But the bigger conversation is, and we had it a little bit earlier, around Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray, both guys that have extensions available to them. And Kyler Murray has come out blatantly and said, this is what I want. I need this. This is the direction and loyalty I need to be shown for me to really put it all in with what I need to do here in Arizona. Where on the other side of this, DaCosta talks about how he's waiting for Lamar. This is on Lamar's timeline. If I'm Lamar, I'm like, go get that bag of money, young man. And
Right.
So what do you think about the two dynamics here? One with an agent, one with an overzealous agent, but both in similar situations.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think a little different, on their career paths right now. I think Lamar Jackson, I mean, he's already shown it. I mean, being an MVP for a year, showing what he could do. The Ravens came into last season with a lot of guys injured, but they were competitive through the season until Lamar Jackson got hurt. So Lamar Jackson gives you a chance and elevates those around him. And that's always the quality I look for. He's a likable guy. He elevates those around him. He's a great team player. Guys in the locker room love him. He's going to get his money, and I think it is just probably wait until Lamar Jackson and his camp, and I know it's kind of just him, approach the Ravens and try to get a deal done. And I think it would be the smart thing to do. I think that's a no-brainer. You look at Kyler Murray. I mean, Kyler Murray had a phenomenal year. He's been doing some good things. Arizona started off hot, but then he gets injured. When he comes back, it doesn't look the same. And now you have a guy coming out with his agent putting the statement out there. To me, I just didn't like that approach. It seems like a lot of kind of pouting in a sense. Give me what I deserve. Give me my money, or I'm going home. And now I get it. Is he going to show up for $5 million this year? I don't know. And should he? I don't know. He's done a phenomenal job. He's a good piece to that team. But I have more concerns of the things we hear lingering out there about his leadership and where he is right now, because that's what you need going forward, is a leader, to be a leader, to elevate those around you, like we're talking about Lamar Jackson. So for Kyler Murray, I don't know. I would kind of wait this out and franchise him and see how this goes. But on the other side, him and Cliff Kingsbury share the same agent. Cliff Kingsbury just got re-upped. I could imagine they're in talks with Kyler Murray, but it's just a tough decision to make. And I think you only know what you want to do if you're in that organization, because you're around him. You see how the guys act around him. And if he's the guy for the future, and you know that, then I have no problem handing out that bag of cash. But until then, maybe you wait another year or two and let him prove himself once again.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you there. Bruce Gradkowski, former NFL quarterback, 11-year veteran, Pro Football Focus analyst, and with SiriusXM NFL radio as well. The wide receivers, we watched them run last night, right? The 40-yard dash. And Chris Brockman and I here on the show were kind of talking about it early on. When they run it there on TV, when in person for you watch the number go up on the board, and Tyquan Thornton goes 4.21, and everybody goes, oh my God, he just broke the combine record. And he's probably thinking, I dropped the mic. I got $1 billion in the bank. I'm jumping up to the first round, all this stuff. And then, an hour later, it comes back out that it's not that. And you've forfeited your opportunity to run it again. Now, don't get me wrong, 4.28 is an amazing fast speed, but if you feel like you can run faster and because you were shown something that really wasn't real, and you decide not to run for a second time, I mean, that's got to be diminishing responses from players. What is your takeaway with that? Chris Olave, another one who ran a 4.29 and then ended up in the 4.39 area.
No, absolutely. And you and I saw eye to eye on this one. I mean, that was disappointing last night when we heard that, because you do get really excited if you're the player. And just like you said, I mean, now you're like, why? Why even run another one? I just broke the combine record. I'm good. I'm done. And then it comes back from a 4.21 to a 4.28. But either way, this guy can move. I think he has the production at Baylor. He's not a small guy either, being 6'2". I think that's the thing I like about him as well. So he definitely made a name for himself. He definitely maybe stepped up the board a little bit more with his 40. But, man, you know what? Just think if you're his agent, too, thinking, we got one. We made it. Yes. We broke the record. And then to find out you didn't. But I still think he did a great job, and, give him a lot of credit for putting in the hard work to be prepared to run a fast 40. 4.28 still moving. I would love to know what that feels like. Just like I told you last night, I'd love to know how it feels to throw the football if I'm Ryan Leaf. Me over here, I got those little lollipops going on. I'd love to know what it feels like to rifle one like you were able to do.
Well, you did pretty good for yourself. In fact, I want you to tell a little bit of your story, right? Just, and you talked about it last night on the radio, how some of these players have made a name for themselves, have maybe slipped their note under the door here for some of these general managers, Crum being one of them from Kansas State, Brock Purdy at Iowa State, that they can take a look at. And you get into an organization, right? You get in a fifth, sixth, maybe even seventh round, or even as a free agent, as long as you get on a roster, because your situation, you end up in Tampa Bay with John Gruden, you learn the offense, and then Chris Sims goes down and you get thrust in and get to start, 11 games as a rookie? I mean, talk to us about that and your story a little bit through this process.
No, for sure. A lot of times, all the players get caught up on, when am I going to get drafted? But you have to take a deep breath and take a back seat and think, look, it's not so much when, but it's where. You want to go to the right situation. And for me, coming out in 06, man, I wanted to get drafted as high as I could. I thought possibly in the third round. When I saw Brody Croyle going off the board and Charlie Whitehurst and all these guys going off the board, I'm thinking I'm next at any moment. And I didn't go until the sixth round, but I went to Tampa Bay. And I remember my agent at the time saying, look, this is a great spot because you're going to learn a lot of good football. And I did. The first minute I got there, John Gruden said, listen, I want you to take that blank or that cassette tape out of your head of football that you know, and I'm going to put a new tape of what you're going to learn, and you're going to learn my new football and good football. And he did. I learned so much good football, and he taught me through OTAs, minicamp, training camp. I had to learn with a sense of urgency as if I was going to be the starter. And with him coaching that way, it made me learn that way. And I was thankful I did, because when Chris Sims went down third or fourth week of the season, I was the backup, and it was my time to go in. And so I was prepared in the sense of knowing the offense, understanding what to do, that I was ready for that moment. But, as a rookie, you live and learn. You have some good moments. You have some not so good moments you have to learn from. But that helped propel me to have an 11-year NFL career because of just such a good foundation of learning football the right way. So when I see these guys coming out, like a Dustin Crum, the guys that even the big guys we're talking about, Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis, where are these guys going to end up going? I wouldn't be so anxious to go so high in the first round. Let it unfold. If you go later in the first round, if you go second round, it's not a bad thing. It's not when you go, it's where you go. I think some of these quarterbacks are going to end up having a really good career once it unfolds and we see who their coach is, who the system is, and who surrounds them. Because at the end of the day, that's a beautiful thing about football. It's an ultimate team game.
Tell us a little bit about how Gruden got after Sims, because that is historical stuff. And I spent some time down in Tampa, and I've heard some stories, but just kind of talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're in training camp my rookie year, and Gruden's getting after me, and I feel like, I'm like, man, I can't do anything right. Sims looks at me, and he's like, no, you have it easy. You don't even know how this guy was to me. And I told you a story last night, though. Not only so much Gruden, but when you get in the NFL, I mean, you have older veterans now. You're 21, 22 years old coming into the NFL. You're around guys that are in their 30s, that have a family and kids, and this is their job. I mean, it's not a game. I mean, it is a game, but it's a business. And I remember being in the huddle with Mike Allstott, Joey Galloway, Anthony Beck, Cadillac Williams, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm not getting in the huddle and not going to be able to enunciate these plays. I have to know them like the back of my hand.
Because they were long. They were incredibly long.
This one play that kept me up at night, it was Indy right 10, X short, fake 96 power king, naked left, X slot. And I still know that to this day because I could not sleep until I got that right because I wasn't going into the huddle and not going to know how to call this play when I had Michael Pittman split out as a wide receiver. Then I had to shift him back in the backfield. And then I had to send a motion. I mean, so there's a lot going on. And real quick, another story. I get in the huddle at training camp, and there's this play, green right west, 93 week, can it with 96 power king. So that's 2 runs we called it in the huddle. And I called both runs to the right side. I said 92 week, can it with 96 power king. We break the huddle. I get to the line of scrimmage, and I start telling my O-line, oh, no, shoot, it's 93 week. It's 93 week. I turn back to tell Mike Allstott, and he grabs my face mask. He goes, which one is it? Get it right. And, he used maybe a little different kind of language that way. But in that moment, I was like, oh, man, I can't mess up a play.
Yeah. I played with Mike, too, in Tampa and with that crew. And I felt the same way, right? I got in the huddle with Keyshawn and Allstott and Warwick Dunn and those guys, Joey as well. So, yeah, it's a different world. Hey, Bruce, thanks for taking some time, man, and breaking it all down for us.
No, for sure, Ryan. Thanks for having me on. It was good to be with you last night today. Have a good week.
You too, man. Have a great weekend. Bruce Gradkowski, everybody, 11-year NFL veteran, analyst for the Pro Football Focus as well as SiriusXM NFL Radio.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.